Lost is a place too. Let's look at that. First of all, our human journey as a pilgrimage through light and darkness. One of my favorite images of that comes from the Gospels. And this isn't so hard to pick up, but once someone's shown it to you, you'll always see it. And that is in the Synoptic Gospels, the interplay between Galilee and Jerusalem. For instance, if you go after the resurrection, in the resurrection appearances, whether it's Jesus or whether it's the angels appearing to the women, invariably they say, go back to Galilee and he'll meet you, or go back to Jerusalem or he'll meet you. Now those are two separate places. Go back to Galilee and he'll meet you. Go back to Jerusalem and he'll meet you. Now what are Galilee and Jerusalem? Well, they're more than places on a map. They are that, But in the Gospels, they're also places inside of spirituality, inside of the heart. And I can put it to you, this is simplistic, but it catches it. Maybe a little oversimplified. But quite simply, Galilee is where all the good things happened. Galilee is where the disciples met Jesus, where they fell in love with him, where the miracles took place, where they had the big crowds, where they fed the people, and so on. Galilee was where they walked on water. Literally, in Galilee, they walked on water. Seems like Casson Zachas says in that fine book, he said in Galilee, every time they turned a stone over, a few angels came out. Okay. And then Jerusalem, how much to the contrary. Jerusalem's the place of the diatribes with the scribes and Pharisees. Jerusalem's the place where it all went wrong. Jerusalem's the place of controversy, and Jerusalem's the place of humiliation, and it's the place where he dies. There's many references to Jesus praying in the scriptures, but there's only two references where they get inside of his prayer, where they say this is what's happening while he's praying. And they're very different. In one reference, they say Luke says, Jesus was praying, and he went into ecstasy. And he said, I bless you, Lord of heaven and earth, that you hid these things from the wise and the clever, revealed them to mere children. I'll let you guess. Where do you think he was praying when that happened? Galilee. Another time Luke says he's praying and there are beads of sweat like blood was dropping from his face. He was in agony in the garden. Where do you think that is? Jerusalem. See, Galilee's the place of fervor. Galilee's the place of light. You walk on water. Jerusalem's the place of humiliation, of diatribes, of death, and so on. And notice they're both privileged places to meet Jesus. You meet Jesus in Galilee, you meet Jesus in Jerusalem. We're meant to walk in fervor, we're meant to walk in darkness. And those of you who are in the Ignatian tradition, Ignatius, all his spiritual discernment between consolation and desolation. To read your life, consolation, desolation, or in John of the Cross, you might understand more clearly. See, John of the Cross says, there are times when God leads you through fervor. Actually, in the active night of the census, God is leading you through fervor. You're having experience. Your honeymoon was an active night of the census. And isn't that a great expression for a honeymoon? So, okay. And then God leads you also through dark nights of the soul, so that God leads you through fervor, through consolation, and God leads you precisely with no consolation and darkness and so on. And they're both very important places in the spiritual life.